Hey, everybody. Great having you with us here on this Thursday, January the 11th. It's Jason, of course, Joe, and Tommy. Glad to have you again. We'll talk all things WPT over the next 20 minutes or so. Guys, we're coming off our first weekly handicapping West Point podcast. Had Joe Bianca, I'll start with you, and I hope both of you are doing well. We had a very good 3-year-old debut from Slider a few days ago out west at Santa Anita.
Yeah, it was great. I'm a huge Slider fan. I was out at Del Mar last summer when he debuted, so I got to know him a little bit back at the barn. He's just one of those horses that like does everything right. He had never missed a beat from OBS March all the way into John's barn. And I wasn't surprised to see him run well. It'd be
To pilot commander, Muth in the 3-path, formidable man.
Frank Miramati interrupts me.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, you know what? I wonder if I can just turn down the volume, can we just kill the audio? But all good. We had a very good effort out of Slider, and continue, Joe. I apologize.
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
it was good to see him fight the way he did. I thought on the turn we kind of were in a little bit of trouble when the other two Baffert horses went by him, but to see him fight back, almost get back up for a second was really cool. And it'd just be interesting to see where he goes from here. Now he's obviously gone 7 successfully, and I think eventually we'll try to stretch him out to 2 turns. I think dirt is definitely his preferred surface, we can say so far. So yeah, I'm excited for the future and not surprised to see him run well again.
Now, as far as the Baffert factor out west, Tommy, I mean, Baffert clearly has, a literal army of 7-figure, high 6 figures into the 7 figures class of 3-year-olds. It sounds like John is keen and certainly very much leaning towards at this point. We're glad he came out of the race in good shape, got an 85 buyer. I think his Ragozin, did he get a 13 on Ragozin as well?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a career best effort out of him in terms of his rag number. So, ran as well as we all wanted him to without winning. I'm wondering, though, like, Tommy, do you think this horse has a best game right now? Because I've pondered it numerous times, and after Tommy talks, Joe, I'd love to get your thoughts also. Like, I don't know what this horse's sweet spot is, but having him take a show on the road is obviously, like, super exciting.
Yeah, he's by Jimmy Creedy. If anyone knows me, they know I love Jimmy Creedy. And he's just, for the value you get out of him is unbelievable. And when I think of Slider, I think a little bit that he's just a Swiss Army knife. I think that he's shown he can run on both surfaces, and I think he can sprint. I think he can get up to a mile. And Jimmy Creed's had progeny show that they could do that. I looked at one of my favorite horses in training, Casa Creed, who just is such a game horse. Every time he shows up, every time he's won grade 1s going 6 furlongs. He's won going a mile in the grass. So I think Slider has the talent to do anything. But like you said, I think that his performance last out, I think, really shows that. I'd like to see him continue with the dirt for a little bit and see what we can get out of him. But I think in the back of our heads, we can be happy to know that, he can do anything.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the thing. It's just 2 turns is going to be the next test for him. Like, we'll see how far he wants to go, but he's a hard trier. I'm always a little hesitant with the horses with his kind of speed stretching out. I kind of for horses that can lay back and make one run if we're going to stretch out to 2 turns. But one thing I know about him, he's going to give it his all. He's going to be in a good spot because of that early speed, and we'll see what we get. But I'm looking forward to seeing what else he can do.
Got a couple of spots potentially on the radar at Oaklawn. The update this week was the Gotham might be on the radar as well. You would think a 1-turn mile. Yeah, your neck of the woods, my friend.
Come on.
South Ozone Park, Queens, my friend. I tell you. And as we continue to do these things, we, with each passing week, maybe there'll be some weeks we're not going to handicap, or there won't be that much to talk about in terms of like what's immediately on tap. And I only mention that because I think, Joe, and you're a Brooklyn kid. I grew up on Long Island, Belmont, my home track. But again, I grew up 8 miles away from Aqueduct. Like, the Gotham is a race that will always have a very soft spot in my heart and soul, because it always, and even now living in Florida to an extent, it's still, although I don't have to deal with those New York winters, it's still a race that like signals the end of winter and turf racing and the Wood Memorial and Belmont Park not too far in the horizon. So to have that horse potentially shipped to the Gotham would be pretty great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. And I think the racetrack would suit him well. And yeah, like January and February are pretty tough around here. But once you get into March and start having those big 3-year-old preps, you can see spring and then the Triple Crown right around the corner.
Absolutely. So, some news concerning the first round of invites that went out, boys, for the Pegasus World Cup races. Of course, Saturday, January 28th. Aqueduct and Belmont were my home tracks. My new home track, of course, is Gulfstream Park. And it looks like West Point and, of course, our great partners and good friends over at Woodford have the likely Pegasus Turf Cup favorite in integration. The field is very much in flux. Nothing is set in stone yet, but I'll start with you, Tommy. I mean, as far as just skimming, and we're all trying to keep our not expectations, but you want to try to keep an even keel. We're all excited, but you don't want to get ahead of your skis in this game. It's just not, that'll set you up for disappointment. But I just get the vibe this is going to be a step up, but not a Herculean step up in class for integration as we look forward to his 4-year-old debut in just a few weeks.
Yeah, when my first look over the race was the horse that drew my eyes were the 2 Euros, and I think they're up in the air if they're going to be running or not. So
yeah, Master of the Seas isn't coming. I don't know
one,
about the other Aiden O'Brien horse, but
so
this isn't the time of the year those horses are in training, right?
So I mean, if draw a line through them, I think, like you said, we should have the favorite here. And the horse that probably caught my eye the most was a Town, who is a reigning champ. So it'd be great, I think, to be able to go in and not take his crown and come Pegasus turf champ and really have an awesome start to the 2024 season for him.
Yeah, no, he's an exciting horse. I mean, what he did in his 3 races last year was, I think, in a lot of respects, certainly for a shug train colt, was unprecedented. And it looks like, Joe, I mean, there is a real void. There's a real chasm in terms of like top class turf talent that I think we're all hopeful as he matures into his 4-year-old season. I mean, we could be sitting on a horse that could be an up to the mark kind of level as far as the American turf runners go with integration.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. Like, I think back to I was there that day when he won first out at Colonial, and I just remember like Shug liked him, and we just kind of didn't know what to expect. And then when he won like that, we kind of all our eyes opened up like, oh, we might have a real good one here. And then just to see him progress the Virginia Derby through the Hill Prince, like he's just come so far in such a short amount of time, and I still think that there's more to get to with him. And yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the reason that we picked up pieces of Cortez and Winning Spirit, was that we looked at the American, and Christoph looked at the American turf landscape and just didn't see any killers out there. And it's like, if you got a horse who can stay, who's got some talent, then I think you're right there already to compete for some big prizes in 2024. And yeah, I think definitely ceiling wise, he's got the highest ceiling of any American turf horse. Now he's got to go do it on the racetrack. Like you said, this is going to be a step up for him, but it's just, there's a reason people are talking and buzzing about him, because you just don't see horses do what he did in his first 3 starts like that very often.
Definitely, and happened to have the luxury of getting up to Payson last Saturday and watched him breeze. There's video. I'm sure many of you watching this maybe tuned in and caught that video with him working in company with Cugino, who goes Saturday, and we'll talk about Cugino in just a couple of minutes. But all systems go for integration. Glad he's training well, and boy, it'll be January 28th before we know it. So the week begins for West Point on Friday as far as like what's on tap this weekend. And we've got a 1-2 punch, boys, out at Fairgrounds. Weather and rain and the forecast very much, I think, almost gets center stage, and certainly looking at the Friday Fairgrounds card, because it does look like you've got the potential for a rainy afternoon. Up first, guys, is Commodore, who's a very, very well-bred horse. They all can't be champions. We know it's a tough game. I mean, he just hasn't shown a whole heck of a lot. I mean, the thought is for maiden 30, I'd like to think, Joe, that he'll run his best race on Friday at Fairgrounds, just simply dropping down a little bit in class.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an hour and ever spot for him to show something. And I think the frustrating thing with him is like he just kind of runs evenly in every single race. He just doesn't have that kick and doesn't really have that speed. Like sometimes, horses can be cheaper horses, but they can still have something they're good at. Early speed, a late kick. They might need more ground, less ground. And he just kind of has gone around the racetrack in one pace in his first 3 starts. So I'm hopeful, he gets Lasix here. I think that the further drop in class should help a little bit, but he's got to show something in terms of wanting to get after it, I think, in the stretch.
All right, so he's listed in post 5 there in Friday's third at Fairgrounds. And then later on, we're going to need a little help in terms of, well, scratches concerning Redeposit, who is scheduled. And again, we'll see what the deal is with grass racing on their January 12th program. But you can see it, 1-6. You had 16 horses entered in this 5.5 furlong race number 7, which is a 52K maiden special weight. Tommy, we're on the outside looking in with Redeposit, but the good news is, I mean, we need one single scratch to get in. And dare I say, I mean, I don't know in terms of first-time starters, and you've got a few and second-time starters, but turf or dirt, assuming we get in, I got to think this horse runs well again because he's been solid in all 3 of his starts to date.
Yeah, and I think especially in this spot, you can just run back to the same race. Last out, I think he can take care of business here. And I mean, he already has beaten a handful of horses that are entered for this race, and we just didn't get lucky enough to draw to the main field. So fingers crossed to get one to defect out for whatever reason and go take care of business down at Fairgrounds.
Yeah, definitely. Tough weather day last time he ran. Boy, oh boy. I mean, you guys remember that, right? I mean, the camera was essentially drenched. The pan
could
shot
barely
camera.
even see what was happening.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But no, he's been good. He's got, as Joe was saying, unlike a horse like Commodore, our guy's got some speed here. And even though he'll have an outside post, assuming he gets in, I think that early speed in a race where you have a lot of inexperienced horses, that early speed will help him. The Larry Ravelli horse, assuming this race is on the turf, is probably the one to catch. And I, obviously have some red marks there. Red with me is speed. High percentage trainer. And I'll tell you, Joe, I was just skimming and I didn't do a deep dive here in terms of pedigree, but aesthetically speaking, that's a horse, Twirling Candy, Wildcat Air, that may really love to get on the grass.
Oh yeah, no, to me that's a turf sprint pedigree through and through. And with Larry Ravelli that the horse is going to show speed. That even if you didn't see the horse have speed in his first race, that's just the way his horses typically run. Took a lot of money first time out, but it's a 4.5 furlong race at Hawthorne. So who knows what that means? It could have just been nobody else really in the field, although maybe the third horse it seemed like has come back to win. But yeah, like there's no killers in here. You got to assume that horse is going to be on the front end, but total mystery box there as it pertains to how much talent the horse really has. Need one scratch, and he's got an experience edge on a lot of the field. Redeposit does, so I like that going forward in this spot. And I really hope the weather stays dry because I'm trying to get him on turf a couple times. I think Greg Foley thinks he leans turf with him, so hopefully he gets that opportunity.
And we know the Omaha beaches have been good. I mean, they've been good on any surface. So good luck to Redeposit. Good luck to Commodore out in NOLA on Friday. And then we come to my neck of the woods down here in South Florida for the weekend. We've got 2 shug horses, a nice 1-2 punch for my Shuggy Bear beginning Saturday with Cugino. This is a horse we've got, West Point owns pretty much 100% of this horse. So it's one of our larger partnerships. And I mean, Joe, take us back. Actually, we know how well Cugino ran, but and again, Source has a big partnership, but I remember seeing like on Chatter after he won back on November 11th up at the Big A. I mean, you guys, this horse and you guys, I mean, big crew. I mean, that looked like, aside from him showing up and running amazingly well, looked like it was just a phenomenal time. And we want to do that again, obviously, on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I wrote on Chatter that I think that might have been my favorite day at West Point thus far because it was just a big group of great partners, a lot of partners who have been with us for a while, some newer partners who maybe haven't had luck with the first couple of horses. So a lot of different people converging on this one horse. And again, with the first time starters, especially with Shug, like you don't know what to expect first time out. And for him to run that huge, I was just like blown away. You know, we went back up to long shots at Aqueduct, had a few celebratory drinks. Everybody's in a great mood. Like it was just one of those really, really satisfying wins. And yeah, I mean, what's not to be excited about with this horse?
He's trained really well, Shug. I was texting a little bit with Shug this morning. Shug's very happy. There's video again of that January 6th breeze, and again, it wasn't a race. They weren't asked. Integration certainly wasn't asked for his best, but I was impressed that Cugino was just able to go head and head, eye to eye with a potential grade one quality 4-year-old in that tune-up breeze. Excited to see him run. In terms of weather, 30% chance of rain on Saturday. Friday looks clear down here. They're off the turf today, and it's just kind of cold, damp. It kind of feels like a mid-November, maybe early November afternoon up in the Northeast down here today. It's just chilly. It's damp. It's a little raw outside, but fingers crossed things will work out and we'll be on the grass Saturday at Gulfstream Park. I mean, Cugino, Tommy, his first race, pedigree, all that stuff. And as Joe mentioned correctly, the Shug, this horse winning is a Shug first-time starter. I mean, all that stuff speaks for itself. Starting, though, basically for me with the two deadpan, and we can work our way through the field a little by little. I said on the horse call, Joe, I mean, Tommy, like I feel this race in some respects might be even a little tougher than the Dania Beach was last Saturday with Depiction.
Yeah, I mean, when I went through looking at the race, it was just, just chock full of talented horses. Some that had speed, some that came a little off of it, breaking their maidens like we did with Cugino. So I think this is going to be a great spot for him and a great spot for us to see, see what he's made of. And I think we can expect a big one from him here. And I mean, obviously love Cugino and the damp Dorval Misses done some real nice horses. Veronica Green, I think, up with Chad Brown, and then our own Battle of Normandy. So
Yep.
I'm excited about this spot for him and really think that if we can work out a trip with him, I think we should have something to celebrate at the end of the day.
Well, there's some speed in the race, which is good. The one horse that interests me, and there's a few in here that are scary and have legit chances, and this turf course can play a little towards early speed. Joe, give me a few horses that you think are the main danger. I'll just throw it to you on, and again, you could give me whoever else you think might run well here. But this Shadwell horse, I put a couple of question marks next to him. All right, race didn't come up insanely fast on the poly at Turfway Park, but I mean, more than ready. Shadwell homebred. I mean, winning by 6 1/4 and paying almost $20. If that horse showed up and ran huge on the turf with that speed, that wouldn't surprise me at all. That horse really scares and interests me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of those kind of horses that debut at Turfway as opposed to Gulfstream for, really high profile connections like that. But like you said, more than ready out of a Chamardal mare, like that's pretty high quality, high class turf pedigree. Typhoon Fury right there, I think, is also dangerous. Had that sprint win, stretched out, had a bit of a wide trip in the Central Park, and still rallied from 10th to eventually be third. I think the horse to our outside, Beyond Stoked, which is like pretty fitting because we're beyond stoked about Cugino, makes a lot of sense too. Stepped up and ran a really good race. I thought breaking his maiden last time out. Had to track pretty fast fractions. 1:33.2 is real racehorse time. The horse that he beat came back to win next time out. I mean, the Jorge Delgado horse, like these MO racing horses seem to always, jump up and run well for him. And the process to the outside, our other horse doesn't seem like he's without a chance either. He's getting on turf for the first time. He's a big, beautiful dude that I think is going to appreciate more ground. He gets to go 2 turns for the first time. It's a wide open race, man. But of the horses that we've gone through, I think Typhoon Fury and Beyond Stoked are the ones that really worry me the most.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the process because West Point not only has a 1-2 punch over the weekend with Shug at Gulfstream, we're firing two hopefully very nice bullets in this race. Cherie loved this horse over the summer. was the day after Travers. In fact, I watched his Ellis Park win on the 27th at the barn with Cherie, and then her and I took a ride over in the golf cart to the races that day. I'll always remember that because Depiction had broken his maiden either in the race prior. I mean, they won back to back, and I was so annoyed I didn't punch like a cold West Point Cherie double there. Nice pedigree, as Joe was saying, by More Than Ready. The dam herself is a half the Zenyatta. This horse may move up on the turf. I had noted there's an older brother by Oasis Dream. So that horse was really bred for turf, and he just couldn't run at all. He was no good on the grass. I mean, Tommy, do you have any inkling as to how the process might run from post 10 on Saturday down here?
I expect to see a little bit of speed from him, like he showed me broke his maiden, and not all the wanting to go up to the front by himself, but I think he'll be thereabout closer than Cugino will be. I think he's going to want to come from a little further back, and I think the 9 right to his inside as well. Nomos might be have a little. That horse intrigued me a little bit. Obviously, big time connections there, and just coming out of some big time races where look like where it was wrong surface and then just outclassed. So I think with the process, if he can be up there and close and try to clean up a little bit of a early pace tool, I think we'll be sitting in a good spot for maybe a West Point 1-2 finish.
No, that'd be amazing, man. That would absolutely be amazing. You can see I highlighted because I remember going back to the With Anticipation late in Saratoga. Naturally, was very much in the ballpark there and rooting for Carson's Run. But this horse, I love the Wertheimer and Frere horses generally, and got the Uncle Mo Tap It. I remember thinking, oh, this horse could give Carson's a big run for his money, but our boy, though, coming up a little short to the filly that day, ran a better race than Nomos. And a good update today, guys, with Carson's Run. Just seems he got a well-deserved vacation, and it's just about time, Mr. Joe Bianca, for Carson's to start gearing up at Kinsman before he heads back to the good old CC operation.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see him. Like you said, he deserved a break. He did a lot in a short amount of time and responded really well. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what he can do this year. There's a lot of big 3-year-old turf races, a lot of big purses out there, particularly in the summer. A lot of them are 1.25 miles, so we'll have to see how far he wants to go. But yeah, I love that. Just as a handicapper, I love that angle when you got a horse that does a lot in a short amount of time and then gets like a 60, 90-day break or so and then comes back. I think a lot of times I look for horses like that because they just seem to come back even better than they were when they went on the shelf.
He's also a Cupid, a grandson of Tappet. I think looking at his pedigree for what it's worth, you might also think the best is yet to come, and he's trained by an absolute master in Christophe Clement. So great times last year with Carson's Run. And look, with Cugino and a few of the others, it could be a very exciting spring into summer for the West Point 3-year-old turf horses in the stable, which is great. Now, not a turf horse at this point is very practical. We'll fast forward to Sunday's racing, guys, like down at GP in the 4th with a post time of about 1:40 p.m. Eastern. With the drag down there, and look, it annoyed me.
No one knows that better than you, Jay.
Oh yeah, and when I worked there, I hated it before the Strata. And look, I had a great 4 years at the Strata Group. They took great care of me. It was tough leaving. It was not when Terry and Debbie offered me the job to come work for West Point. It wasn't immediate. Yes, it's been the right decision coming up on 3 years, which is wonderful. But my point is, hated the drag before I got down to Florida. Was busy at the track. You don't notice it as much. But now, again, with our horses and just not going to the races every single day, it's like Chinese water torture, and so many tracks do it now. So I'm not alone, gang, right? I mean, this is a place to vent your this is generally a positive podcast, but we can vent our frustrations with the post-time draft. One of the worst modern quote unquote inventions in this game, without a doubt, as far as I'm concerned.
No doubt. I mean,
down.
And it's like the post-time thing in general is very hard for people to get right in this industry, like between the drag and running races on top of each other from multiple different tracks. Like, it just seems like something we should get right, and we just can't do it.
Just can't do it. And, two major tracks, and I don't want to, believe me, I can whine and complain with the best of them. I don't want to go off in the weeds here. But yeah, last weekend, like two major tracks were starting races on a Saturday, and they were high quality races within like a minute of one another. It was driving me bananas. Pretty much that was, I guess, my reaction, Tommy, watching Very Practical's first start. This is a race I will never forget. I wouldn't forget it regardless, just because her trip was so insane and she did a lot of things right. But taking that a step further, Christina and I with ZZ, we were on the Florida Turnpike on our way to the yearling showcase in Ocala, because she ran on a Friday, December 1st, and we had the show, cocktail party that night and the yearling showcase the morning after up there. And we pulled over, and I said to Christina, Tommy, right before they started the race, I said, she may break a little slow, but I'm hoping she breaks good. She broke slow, and then Tommy, it just got worse and tougher for her after that. Tough trip, man.
Yeah, it's in recent memory for me. It's one of the just most unbelievable, unlucky trips I can remember, because she just basically walking out of the gate, and then she really starts running well, and then she has to pump the brakes. To think how you go into the turn, and then again in the turn, you have to pump the brakes. It was just couldn't catch a break. So I think here, and I think it helps a lot breaking from the outside here, where we can get a clean break. And from what I think, should show a little bit of early speed, because after she started running at the start of her last race, she really started to move. So I think just break clean, and hopefully we can get clean from the outside and get moving and stay clear of everyone else.
Yeah, well said there, Joe. Or I should say, Tommy, with the outside post. You were there again, Joe, back at the Big A on the 1st of December. The start was bad. I was like so impressed, though, as Tommy was saying, with what she was able to do and the size of her stride, and almost like down the backstretch, just how push button she was.
No, for sure. And like, this has got to be like one of the best 40 buyer efforts you'll ever see, like considering the context, because, like you say, if you watch the replay, she broke slow, but she was right back in the race in like a handful of strides. Like she broke like 5-6 lengths slow, and you could see like she was up within 4 lengths of the lead by the first call. Like it did not take her long to get back into that race. And that's what was so frustrating, was like, the slow break, that kind of thing happens, especially with a first time starter. But I thought once she got back into the race, I'll be like, all right, we'll see what she's got here. And she just never even had a chance to run on the turn. So that was, I think, the more frustrating part than the break. And yeah, it was just a nightmare trip. And breaking from the outside, I agree with you guys, much more advantageous this time, especially because like she had such a bad trip that I think sometimes you worry, especially when you get stopped on the rail like that with a young horse. Is this going to like traumatize them, or, give them bad memories or bad associations with being down inside? This time she gets to be in the clear, and then, hopefully be able to avoid some traffic. But yeah, that was, like I said, one of the best 40 buyer efforts you'll ever see.
And she's trained at Payson, doing well. The gate with her has been an ongoing issue, maybe not as drastic, or hopefully not as drastic, as she broke in that first start, but it's on my mind. She's outside. Good luck to her. And I think the field, now I'm usually like the last to find out. Tom Bellhouse is usually my go-to in terms of like, all right, first time starters, who's good, who's hot, who's live. As far as horses that have already raced in this affair, there's just not a whole heck of a lot that scares me. First time starters, I gotta think at least one or two of the quartet of Leslie's Humor, who for a Cantharos horse, and I'm a Cantharos guy. 500K as a 2-year-old in training, worked a quarter in 20-4 last June out of that phasing sale. She scares me. You got the Gargan Firster by Good Magic. Maybe she's going to want a little more ground. And then there's 2 Into Mischief Firsters. One for our good friends, Mike Rapoli and Todd Pletcher, the 5 Overly Dramatic. And then you've got the classic sort of blue blood pedigree of the Helen Alexander Bilmont Firster, the 7 Roswell. Tommy, what do you got for me in terms of Firsters, and like outside of our filly, anything else you want to say about this race on Sunday?
I agree with you. I thought the one was very intriguing. Then I found out the price tag and was even more so intrigued by the horse, handicapping wise, at least. But I think that horse with that the work it had, that really speedy work that you mentioned, I think can expect it to really fire out of the gate.
Mhm.
And then I also looked at the Mott horse, the 7 Roswell. I don't think Mott is overly known for really having his horses cranked first out, but you had touched on it. I mean, the horse is just royally bred, and Junior gets up for him, and when those two can really wreak havoc when people kind of forget and sleep on them. So those are the two that I really had my eyes drawn to.
What about you, Joe?
Yeah, no, those two, and obviously the Pletcher horse makes a lot of sense. I agree that not too much in terms of form to go on. Danny Gargan's horse might have a little bit of speed as well, but this is a split division. There was another division of this race later in the card. I think we got mildly lucky because that race might be the 6th. To me that
Here it
race
is.
absolutely loaded with firsters and horses working up a storm, much more established form, as you can see, with the Mott horse and the Mike Trombetta horse and even the Rail horse who ran okay. Like, I think all things considered, we are in the slightly softer division. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
I did watch, for what it's worth, and thanks for pointing it out, Joe. I did see Mystifying Train last Saturday up at Payson. Beautiful Phipps homebred by Curlin, gorgeous filly. Shug likes this filly. Again, going first out, 3/4, probably going to be a little too short, but she is definitely one to keep in the back of your memory bank. Shug likes her. You've got a Terry Pompey horse with speed. The D'Angelo horse was a monster favorite. Came up a little short there last spring, going 4.5. And then, the Audible filly on the outside. So it should be a fun Sunday, gang, and fun weekend. Any closing thoughts here, guys, as far as anything that's on your mind you want to get off your chest right now? Anything you guys want to share? Joe, I'll start with you.
No, I just think Jason's got some phone calls to answer.
Yeah, including our good buddy Trey Gordon. I forgot to hit the do not. Yeah, Trey. We love Trey, and great guy, great partner. Him and Carmen, and Trey's on the rebound. I guarantee, guys, with Cugino Racing and Signature back home and Sedona getting close, he's gonna want to talk some Gulfstream horses. But no, everything's good in my world. Tommy, you're good as well. Oh, dude, happy birthday, belated happy birthday,
thank
by
you.
the way.
Yeah,
What are you, 18?
What was that?
What are you, 18 years old now?
Yeah,
19?
more or less.
We got on. Tommy was talking about how the birthdays don't mean anything anymore as he gets
I
older.
know.
What are you, 22 years old, bro?
Yeah, so what, 22, 23?
24 now. It's
Oh,
easy for me to
24.
remember. It's my favorite party trick to tell people, I was born in year 2000, and they look at me with wide eyes like, how are you this old? You're born in 2000.
All right. Well, we're glad you're on the team. Glad you're on the team. You do anything for your birthday, my friend, other than work?
A little bit of work, of course, and then went out to dinner with girlfriend Haley and had a nice, relaxing dinner. It was enjoyable, and the weather wasn't too terrible. It rained a decent bit, but it finally cleared up.
All right. Well, good. Well, next time you're in Florida, you can take me to dinner. So bring some money, okay?
We hopefully got to hit a few bets first.
All right. Sounds good. Well, good luck. Good luck to the West Point Horses Racing. We'll catch you next week here on our little WPT podcast. And, great job, boys. And let's go get them. All right. See ya.
Sounds good.